Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
But I don't understand, why can't Howard Stern make fun of George Bush when Rush Limbaugh is allowed to say things like the Iraqi prison scandal is no worse than what happens in college frat house hazings all across America? That just makes me think that Rush Limbaugh is still high. Rush Limbaugh was doing a lot of drugs, too. He did a lot of drugs. Rush Limbaugh did so many drugs, Courtney Love would say, you know what, I can't. I got to work tomorrow. But Rush Limbaugh never had to face any of the court stuff that Courtney had to deal with. He never had to worry about any of that. He just got to go back to work. I mean, have drug laws changed a lot recently? Because it wasn't too long ago that they sent Tommy Chong behind bars for selling bongs on the internet. Like, who didn't know Tommy Chong smoked weed? It's on the SAT. People should not be put behind bars for smoking pot. I mean, pot smokers can't commit crime.
Folks.
They can barely get...
That's why we got Margaret Cho on. She's one of the top comedians in the country. She starred in a bunch of movies, the stars of major sitcoms for decades, and she just gets bigger and bigger, and she really tells it like it is on so many issues. You know, the new film, America Drug War, coming out next month. It just aired on... Showtime, but we're going to have it on DVD for you that I consulted on my buddy Kevin Booth. They went into jail and interviewed Tommy when he was in there in California, and he talked about how he smoked pot with Arnie, but Arnie isn't going to get in trouble. How just months before he got busted, he was smoking pot with Arnie. It's all selectively enforced, and Limbaugh could take 100. He went deaf from it. That'd kill like 5 horses, by the way. 100 Oxycontins a day. It's synthetic heroin. But you're selling bongs to smoke weed that George Washington smoked, you're going to go to jail for a couple years. And so we are really on, and that and a whole bunch of issues is Margaret Cho, and her website is margaretcho.com. We have a link to it up on Infowars.com. Margaret, thanks for coming on with us.
Thank you. I didn't know that Tommy smoked weed with Arnold. That sounds great.
Yeah, well, we actually have the video of that. It's in the film. It's now aired on...
It's just so insane that he had to go to prison for that. You know, I mean, it's just ludicrous that there are so many laws against marijuana when marijuana is hardly a problem at all. The big problem is, you know, that the country is totally ignoring other problems. I mean, alcohol is far worse than any kind of, like, pot that anybody would smoke, I think.
Well, they can find no deaths from pot, and by the way, I don't smoke it, but they can find over 100,000 a year related to alcohol.
Right, and nicotine is a terrible drug as well, and I think that those substances like alcohol and nicotine need to be regulated far more than anything like marijuana, which I find really helps people, so I don't understand.
Well, it does for hundreds of illnesses, glaucoma, cancer patients, you name it. I mean, just getting into the drug war first, and we'll just get into what's important to you right now, what you're really focused on, and where your career's going, some of the new stuff you've done, some of your concert movies. There's so much to talk about in the 20 minutes we've got you, but the larger issue of Limbaugh. I mean, he is such a hypocrite that he can be gobbling close to 1,000 pills a week and committing felonies, doing it with narcotics, but that's okay. And he still calls for the cocaine laws where if a black's caught with crack, they get 20 years in prison, but a white lawyer gets probation.
Right. I mean, it's obviously very racist and very hypocritical, and because he's a conservative, he gets away with a lot more than anybody else does because of his politics.
I think more than just being a, quote, conservative, he supports the military-industrial prison complex.
Right. Right. It's a shame. It's really a shame.
You've been from the first days of this administration when really people weren't criticizing Lord Bush, when he had a 90% approval rating, you were criticizing him. Now everybody's criticizing. We have the 10 steps to fascism, Naomi Wolf. Even conservative pundits are saying Bush is insane. He's talking about being a dictator. Give us your take on when you started really getting concerned about Bush.
Well, I got concerned right after 9/11 where, the planes hit the World Trade Center and he was in that classroom with all those children and they told him what was going on and he did nothing for several minutes. He did nothing. As we waited and waited and waited for him to do something.
15 minutes, yeah.
The country was in danger, and he did nothing. We were attacked for the first time on American soil, and he did nothing. That's when I realized that there was something wrong, very, very wrong.
Now, a lot of the victims' families and others, and Willie Nelson and Charlie Sheen and the former German defense minister and the former Italian president and thousands of architects and engineers have said that, especially Building 7, not hit by a plane, collapsing perfectly, they have questions, and now it turns out that Bush appointed the commission and had Zelikow, his deputy, running it. Do you have any questions about the official story?
Well, I have a lot of questions about the Pentagon. I mean, I don't understand why we have so much footage of the World Trade Center and the sort of the buildings falling, the Twin Towers falling, and why there was also this whole thing that happened at the Pentagon, which, in a sense, if you hit the Pentagon, it's far more of a security breach if you're talking about national security. I mean, that is, in a sense, a lot worse. Of course, there's a lot of fatalities, a lot more with the towers, but the Pentagon is sort of glossed over, that we don't see a lot of information about that, and we don't even have a clear picture of the damage or what happened. And to me, that's troubling. Like, why is that so under the rug? Why are we not seeing anything about that? Why is it all focused on the towers? I mean, I understand that the tragedy has sort of a, the ground zero, that is sort of the ground zero of the tragedy, but there was other parts to it, too. That day was a terrible day, and there was other things that happened. Why are they not focusing on that, and what are they hiding?
It is suspicious that there's that 16-foot hole before it collapses, and they seized all the video camera tapes. I mean, I wonder why they won't release any of those. I mean, they released one from a parking cam that only takes a picture every second or so, and it doesn't show a plane. It's very weird.
Right, and the Pentagon is really where so much of our, so much of our government is really housed. There's so many like military security, all this like top secret stuff happens there. So of course it's going to be monitored from every angle, every second, and yet we have no footage of it. It's very mysterious, and so I've always been curious about that. Like, what's up with the Pentagon? Where and what happened there, and where's the damage, and what occurred, and why was it almost not as bad as what happened in the towers? Why is it not as what happened? It's just very strange to me.
Yeah, you would think of a plane could bring down not just the two buildings, but one down the street that wasn't hit by anything, just magically. Yeah. Boy, you think of a plane at the Pentagon, the whole thing would have just blown up.
Right, and just a little piece of it seemed to sort of like have fallen over, like somebody drove a car into it or something, but it was a whole plane. And then where's the plane? It's so weird. I don't know.
Well, what about...
It's very much about a conspiracy to me, I think.
Very much about a conspiracy. Well, what about I mean, you're very well informed politically. I've seen that. The PNAC documents where Dick Cheney publicly wrote that we need a big catalyzing event to be able to launch all these wars. And then Bush massed 44,000 U.S. troops in the country surrounding Afghanistan and had 2 carriers there. And they sent over 18,000 British troops, and he signed the launch order the day before 9/11 to attack Afghanistan, but then he said he attacked Afghanistan because they were supposedly behind the attacks. Boy, I mean, you just don't mass those troops overnight. That was a 4-month buildup, Margaret.
I know, and they were ready for something. They were ready to go, so it was all some kind of a plan. And really, I mean, our country is no stranger to conspiracy anything. I mean, this whole country was built on conspiracy. There's all conspiracy.